Hello everybody, and today we're going to do another Springboards class, so make sure you have the correct book, okay? It should be the People's Book number 4. Alright, and then your workbook, we will have one page to do today, which is writing exercise. Make sure you have it ready, alright? So it's Springboard number 2, okay? So make sure you have the correct books right now, so we don't have to go look for them later, alright? Alright, so let's start with the first page for today, alright? Which is our Pupils Book, page 22. Alright? So open your books please to page 22. Alright? Okay, so page 22 is similar to the whiteboard here. We have 5 parts. So we have part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5, which we will have to do in page 73, okay? So part 5, we will do it on page 73, which looks like this one. Alright, so just remember that we have to change pages here and there. Alright, so open your book to page 22 and let's get started. Okay, so on page 22, the first exercise is listening, reading, and then we have to underline the correct answer. Okay, now if you remember, our topic for Unit 3 is before, right? So then, and we also have now, right? Then and now. So then we'll be using what kind of tense? Then we'll be using past tense, right? P-A-S-T-T-E-N-C-E, past tense. And for now, we will use what kind of tense? Right, we will use present tense. Okay? So for now, we will use is, am, are, right? The form of to be will become is, am, are for present tense. I am, you are, we are, they are, he, she, it is. In the negative, then it will become I am not, you aren't, or you are not, she is, or she isn't, right? In the present tense. In the past tense, we only have 2, was and were, right? I was, you were, they were, he was, she was, it was, right? We were, okay? In the negative, it will be weren't, I wasn't, you weren't, they weren't, we weren't, he, she, it wasn't, okay? So now let's try to look at over here, okay? So part 1, listen and read, okay? Listen and read, and then we have to underline. So first, let's try to listen at picture A. And then we will read picture A, and then we will underline or circle the answers, okay? And then after picture A, we will go to picture B, do the same thing. And then after doing all of the circling or underlining, we will listen one more time to the whole story and then check the answers. Okay? Okay, so keep your book at page 22, listen to the recording, and we will listen to it, everything, and then check the answers. Alright, so please get ready. I'll play the recording once only, so I'm going to start now.
Unit 3, Lesson 3. I was a happy baby. Exercise 1, page 22. Listen, read, and underline.
This is Small Town now. There are a lot of big shops. There is a big supermarket, a cinema, and a museum. There is a hospital in Small Town now. There are a lot of cars in the streets. It's a noisy town now.
Okay. So we've just finished part A, right? Part A. So let's try to answer the questions together, and then after that we'll move on to part B. So part A, this is small town now. There is, right? There is or there are lots of big shops. Of course we will use are, right? So this is now, so present tense. There is or there are. Now which one do we know? Because it's a lot, right? A lot, that means many. And then we have the letter S. Pay attention. We have letter S, right? So shops. When we have a lot and shops, we need to use R, okay? R. R. Okay, for number 2. Number 2 should be easy, right? If you listen and circle the answer, you know the answer already. So number 2 is, there are or there is a big supermarket, a cinema, and a museum. How many things did we say? We said 3, right? Although we did say 3, we said a supermarket, a museum, and a cinema. So a means only 1, right? So and then supermarket has no S. So should it be is or are? It should be is, right? So underline or circle is. Are you paying attention? Okay, very good. Now let's move on to number 3. There is or there are a hospital. Again, same thing as number 2, right? We have a, so it means only 1, and hospital has no S. So it should be singular. Which one should we use for singular? Is or are? Is, right? Very good. And last one we have number 4. There is or there are a lot of cars in the streets. Again, here we have a lot of and cars. That means more than 1. So should it be is or are? It should be are, okay? And these are all in the present tense, right? Is, are, is, are. We don't have M here because M is talking about myself, right? Or I. Nothing here is about I. Alright, so now let's move on to picture B. Alright, so let's listen to picture B and underline the questions or the answers, alright?
This was small town 50 years ago. There wasn't a supermarket, but there was a butcher's, a baker's, and a greengrocer's. There was a library then, but there weren't many cars. Oh, it was a quiet town then.
Okay. Alright, so let's check our answers now. So, part B is talking about the past or before, so it should be past tense. The example given, oh sorry, no example, right? Yep, no example, so let's do it together. This was small town 50 years ago. That means 50 years before, right? There was or wasn't, sorry, there wasn't or weren't a supermarket. There wasn't or weren't a supermarket. So in this case, we have right? In the past tense, the singular will use was. But since we're talking about negative, we have wasn't, okay? So there wasn't a supermarket, okay? Number 2, but there were or was a butcher. There were or was a butcher. Again, we have a butcher, right? A butcher, a baker's, and a greengrocer's. So only one. We're talking about only one butcher here, not the 3 things, right? So for only one, should we use were or was? Was. Very good. And lastly, we have number 3. Number 3, there was or there were a library then. A library. Again, similarly, means only one, right? And for singular, we will use was. So there was a library then, but there wasn't or there weren't many cars. So again, we have many and cars. If this was the present tense, we will use are, right? But in this case, it's past tense and in the negative form. So we just have to look for which one has R, the letter R, here, right? So weren't, because was is for singular, were is for plural or more than one. So it should be weren't many cars. Alright, so check your answers. Question number 1, part A should be are a lot of big shops. Number 2, is a big supermarket. Question number 3, is a hospital. Question number 4, are a lot of cars. Part B, wasn't a supermarket. Number 2, was a butcher. Number 3, was a library. And number 4, weren't many cars. Okay? So let's listen to this story again one more time before we move on to part 2, because this is again related to the story. Okay? So listen again and try to read. Okay? Try to read together with the recording so you can actually understand how to use past and present tense. All right? So let's listen and read together. Okay? So read quietly in your head and then listen. Use your fingers if you need to point out the words. I'll play the recording now.
Unit 3, Lesson 3. I was a happy baby. Exercise 1, page 22. Listen, read, and underline.
This is Small Town Now. There are a lot of big shops. There is a big supermarket, a cinema, and a museum. There is a hospital in Small Town Now. There are a lot of cars in the streets. It's a noisy town now. This was Small Town 50 years ago. There wasn't a supermarket, but there was a butcher's, a baker's, and a greengrocer's. There was a library then, but there weren't many cars. Oh, it was a quiet town then.
Alright, so it was a quiet town then, which means past tense. Now let's go on to part 2, where we have to read again and put a tick or a cross in questions number 1 to 4. Okay? So very simple. Let's try to look at the example. Okay, the example, question number 1. Okay? There is a hospital in Small Town Now. Okay? So which picture is now? Is it A or B? Very good. A is now. Okay, so let's try to look at the story of now. Okay, the now story. Try to look for the word hospital. Can you find the word hospital in picture A? Yes, in question number 3, right? So there is a hospital in Small Town Now. So for part 2, question number 1. There is a hospital in Small Town Now. Let's say yes or no. That is a yes, right? So you put a tick. Alright? Now I'll give you around 30 seconds, right? Maybe 30 to 45 seconds. Answer questions number 2 to 4 by yourselves. Alright, your 30 seconds starts now. Number 2, there aren't many cars in Small Town Now. Number 3, there wasn't a butcher in Small Town 50 years ago. And number 4, there was a library in Small Town 50 years ago. Okay, very good. So for number 2, there aren't many cars in Small Town Now. What should be your answer? Now. Right, across, right? There aren't many cars in Small Town Now. So the key word here is what they use, aren't. Aren't means are not many, okay? And this is not true because now in Small Town there are many cars. Number 3, there wasn't a butcher in Small Town 50 years ago. Similar to this one, right? We use now we use the past was and then an apostrophe, which means there was not. Didn't have any. Okay? Butchers in Small Town, that is not true. Because we had a butcher's, a baker's, and a grocer's. Okay? Or greengrocers. Number 4, there was a library in Small Town 50 years ago. Was there or was there not a library? There was a library, right? Very good. So please check your answers. For question number 2, it should be across, right? There are many cars in Small Town Now. Question number 3, it should be across. there was a butcher's in small town 50 years ago. And question number 4 should be a tick, right? There is a library in small town 15 years ago. Sorry, there was a library. Okay, so now let's listen to part 3 and answer which one is Sunnyvale. Okay, so listen and tick. Which one? Is it picture A is Sunnyvale or picture B is Sunnyvale? Okay, so listen carefully, tick the correct answer, and we'll check together with the recording. All right, so let's listen to part 3 and pick up your pencils, get ready.
Exercise 3, page 22. Listen and tick the box.
Sunnyvale is a small town. There are a lot of small shops in Sunnyvale. There's a butcher's, a baker's, and a post office. In Sunnyvale, there's a hospital too. There's a library next to the hospital. Sunnyvale's a nice town.
Okay, so which one is the correct one, right? So which one is Sunnyvale? Sunnyvale is a nice and quiet town. There are many small shops, like the butchers, the bakers, and what else? So that is it, right? A butcher's and a baker's and some sweets. And then they also have a post office. Which one here has post office? A or B? A or B has post office? Which one has a post office? Right, it should be A, right? So Sunnyvale is A. The one with the post office, because B doesn't have post office. So from that, we already know the answer, right? A. Sunnyvale is A. Alright? Now let's look at part 4. We don't have to answer it, okay? You don't have to write it down you don't have to write down the whole answer in your book. Just write down what I write, okay? So let's look at part 4. Pay attention, alright? Part 4. Number 1, okay? So let's try to see how we use past tense. Where were you yesterday? Where were you yesterday? So which question word did we use for number 1 in part 4? Which question word did we use? Right, we use where. And where is talking about places, right? We will talk about the place. So where were you yesterday? And then we use the past tense, right? We use past tense, were. Right, this is the past of to be form of are. And then we have the subject, you. Right? And then we have the time, yesterday. So this tells us it's a past tense, right? Don't pick your nose. Right? And then, how will we answer this question? How will we answer this question? So assuming someone is asking you the question, so you will have to answer. How will you answer? You will answer with I something 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 yesterday. Okay? So yesterday here, again, we have another yesterday. So this means it's in, don't pick your nose and pick. So this means it's in the past tense, right? So if it's in the past tense, then we have to use past tense form of the verb. So you were will become I was. Very good. So I was. W-A-S. I was somewhere yesterday. Okay? I was somewhere yesterday. Don't pick your nose. Alright. Now, if you look at this, right? We swap the you to I, and then we swap the were to was. Now, that's not only the thing we swapped. We also swapped the positioning. The verb comes first before the subject in the question. Where were you yesterday? But in the answer, the verb comes after the subject. I was somewhere yesterday. Okay? And the where part, the place that we're asking for, comes in between, right? In between the I was and the time yesterday. Alright? Good. So you can try to just write this one, I was something something yesterday. Okay? So that question was, where were you? Question number 2. What were you like when you were a baby? Okay? Again, we have some question word. We use what. What is what we use for things, right? Nouns. State of being. So state of being is like how you feel, how you were taught, etc. Right? So state of feeling, how you were. And then here we have another, were you. So again in the question, right? The verb comes first before the subject. Were you? Were you like as a baby? And then this is the time or the condition, right? The condition. What were you like as a baby? So we're asking about how someone was like when they were a baby, right? So we have the question word, the verb and the subject, and then the condition, okay? So how do we answer this? How do we answer this question? Similarly to the one above, again, the question was about you, right? So assuming you are talking to someone, and this person asks you the question, you will answer back with I, right? So similarly to number 1, we will say I, and then when I was a baby, okay? So like a baby, then you say when I was a baby. Or as a baby. I was as a baby. So is this person still a baby now? No, right? So the one where they said that they were a baby, it happened in the past. It happened before. So if it's before or in the past, we need to use past tense. So I was, and then you write down what you were like. I was noisy as a baby. I was funny as a baby. I was adventurous as a baby. Now let's try to look at this again. We have the were over here change into was because you are answering for yourself. And then the you will change to I, right? Because you are answering and someone was asking you. But this is not the only swap or switch we have. We also swapped or switched the places of the verb and the subject, right? Again, in the question, were you, right? The were comes first and you, the subject, comes after. But in the answer part, I was, the subject comes first and then the verb comes after. And then, of course, you have the condition, as a baby, as a baby. And then this one is the state, right? What is over here? What were you like? The state of being. So I was funny. I was naughty. I was not listening. Alright? So now let's go to part 3 or number 3 of part 4, okay? The question asks, were there many people in your town 50 years ago? So all of us will not know, right? Because we are not 50 years old yet. So let's try to pretend that we do, okay? Just pretend. How will we answer this question, okay? First, we have to analyze the question itself. Pay attention. Alright, so were there many? Okay? So were there many people in your town 50 years ago? Okay? And in your town again is another situation, right? Were there many people in your town 50 years ago? Right? So this is a yes or no question, okay? This is a yes or no question. We started with the verb, were, and then the situation or what we're looking for. There are many people, so were there many people. In the past tense, right? Similar to the present tense, is there, are there. In the past tense, we use were there or was there. In this case, we have many people. That means more than one, right? That means more than one. So if it's more than one, then we will use were, plural, okay? Plural. So were there many people in your town 50 years ago? If we say yes, then we will write yes. Okay, yes. The situation is there, okay? So yes, there were. Full stop. Now, let me maybe put this as one constitution, right? So were there will become yes, there were. Again, here we can see the swap, right? We have were and then there. Okay? Were and then there. They are swapped again. So in the question, were there, and the answer is there were. If we say no, then it becomes a different thing, right? Then we will say no, comma, there were. We have a no here. So we have to make it a negative. So N apostrophe T. No, there weren't. And similarly, again, we swap the were there to there were. Okay, N apostrophe. Okay? Next question, question number 4. Let's analyze this one too. Again, we have the phrase, were there many cars? So again, this is what we're actually asking for. Many cars in your town. So this is the situation. In your town, the time is 50 years ago. Okay? So similarly with question number 3, we also have a yes. Yes, comma, there were, if it's a positive. And again, we swap were there to there were in the answering sentence. If it's a no, then we write no, comma, there weren't, right? W-E-R-E-N-T, a negative form. All right? Now let's go to the last question, okay? Last question. Pay attention, please. All right? Last question, number 5. Was it a noisy town? Was it? All right, in this case, we are referring to only one thing, right? So we have, was it a noisy town, right? So we're asking the state, again, was it a noisy town, okay? The state of being of the town. And it's only one, so we use was. How will we answer this in the answering sentence, right? Was it a noisy town? Now, if you look closely to were there and was it, both of them are again yes or no questions, right? Yes or no questions. So we will write them with yes, comma, it was. And then you can continue saying yes, it was a noisy town, or just yes, it was, okay? Now, if you look closely, again, we can see the swapping, right? So, sorry, not this one. So we have was and it, okay? So in the question form, the verb comes first, was it. And then in the sentence where you answer the question, it is. The verb comes after the subject, okay? And then if it was a no, so you write no, it wasn't, N apostrophe T. Similar to isn't, right, in the present tense, but this is past tense. Okay? So this is how you answer your questions, okay? If you can look very closely, we don't need to put many different words or find many different words. Pay attention. We don't need to put many different words or find different words to put, right? The only different words we need to find is the actual answer in between, right? Where were you yesterday? I was maybe at the supermarket yesterday. Where did we get I was and yesterday from? From the question itself, right? So most part of the question will be repeated in the answer with the actual answer, the situation. Same here, right? What were you like as a baby? So where is I was from? I was comes from the question, were you, right? Were you? And then the condition, as a baby, like as a baby, and then the actual answer, funny, tired, noisy, not paying attention, right? Something like that. Okay? All right, so for part 5, right, we have a project. So we will write about Weston. About now and then. So now is present tense and then is past tense. So again, 50 years ago. Where do we do this? We have to turn our book to page 73, okay? Turn your book to page 73. So on page 73, we will do this one, right? So this one, same one here. Okay? Page 73 should be this one. Alright, so for page 73, we have the part 5. Page 73, please. What are you looking at? Can you pay attention? Stop looking around. Alright, so if there is no number on your book, just look at Unit 3, okay? It should say Unit 3. Unit 3, okay? Alright, so if you find the correct page, it should be Unit 3. Alright, we will have to start doing the writing exercise. Okay, the first writing exercise for today. Alright, so it's the same as your book, right? We have 1, Weston now, and the second one, Weston 50 years ago, okay? So, when we are talking about now, we will use is MR because it is the present tense, right? Now we'll use present tense. Alright? But if we're talking negative, right, then we will change is to isn't. Am, right, we don't really need to use am here because we're talking about a place, not yourself. And then if it's a negative, then we use aren't. Right? But let's try to see if we need to use the negative form. Maybe we don't need to use them, okay? So let's look at the photo and try to describe Weston, okay? So in the photo, right, this is Weston now. This is Weston now. There are, okay, so here we already use are, right? We already started using are. And are is for only one or more than one things. Are. Singular, only one, or plural, more than one? More than one, right? So are, we should use plural. So there are, what do we have a lot of in Weston now? A lot of, look at the picture. What can you see a lot of now in Weston? Right, a lot of shops. So let's write that down. This is Weston now. There are a lot of shops. Full stop, okay? Now, let's try to talk about the things one by one, okay? The things one by one. So if we want to talk about one thing, right? Then we will need to say there. One thing, should we use are? No, right? We should use is. So there is a, what do we have? Something very big in Weston now. What do we have? Something very big. What is that big thing in Weston? What's that?
Supermarket.
Very good. So there is a big supermarket, supermarket. There is a big supermarket. Then you can write some more things. Right? A big supermarket, what else? What else can you find in Weston now? A big supermarket, next to it is?
Hospital.
So not there is a big supermarket, hospital. Write down a hospital. Because there's only one, right? There is a big supermarket, a hospital, HOSPITAL. There is a big hospital, what else? What else? A theater, right?
Restroom.
A theater, Theater. Now theater you can also spell with Theatre. Both spelling is okay, okay? TRE or TER is both okay. And then we have one last thing, right? So you can put a comma if you want. You can also put a comma and write down and, or you can no need to put a comma and just write down and, okay? And what else can you find? A place to eat, right? What else? Are you writing it down? What else? Very good. A restaurant, right? And a restaurant. And what is the name of the restaurant? You can write it down. A restaurant called Roberto's. Or you can just put a full stop there. So this is Weston now. There are a lot of shops. There is a big supermarket, a hospital, a theater, and a restaurant. What else? What can we see? What else can we see that has a lot of something in Weston now? And
Lots of cars.
very good, lots of cars. So how do we write that down? We start with there, okay? There. So we say there. Lots. Is it is or are? Lots. Are. Very good. There are a lot of cars or lots of. Okay, you can use both. You can say a lot of or lots of cars in the street, right? In the street or on the road. You can say in the street or on the road. Right? You can use either on the street or in the street or on the road. Okay? And to have a last closing, right? They have the word now, N-O-W in exclamation. That means they are trying to express something, right? So, what do you think? Is it a noisy town now or a quiet town now?
Noisy.
Very good. So you write down it is a quiet.
Noisy.
Sorry, not quiet, right? Noisy. Should be noisy. N-O-I-S-Y. Okay. A noisy town now. Okay? So this is for Weston now, right? So this is Weston now. There are a lot of shops. There is a big supermarket, a hospital, a theater, and a restaurant. There are lots or a lot of cars in the street or on the road. It is a noisy town now. Now pay attention to what I use, right? We have are for a lot of shops. We have is for right? Only one, a big. And then lots, a lot of or lots of cars, we will use are. And then it is so is only one, right? Noisy town. So remember which one to use in the present tense, right? Is for only one, are for more than one. And then isn't for the negative and aren't for negative. Now am is only used if you're talking about I. So I am or I am not, right? But here we're talking about the things we can find in the town. So we use is, isn't, is, isn't, or are or aren't, okay? Now let's try to do the Weston part, Weston, right? 50 years ago. So 50 years ago means past tense, right? Past tense. And past tense, we have was or were. And we also have the negative form. We also have wasn't and weren't. Which one to use, okay? So was is only one, okay? So was is only one, and weren't is more than one, right? So remember, if it's you, right? You. Sorry, let me write that down better. More than one. More than one for were. And then for you, right? You, we will use also were, because you can be only one or you can be many people, right? So you will use were. He, she, it will use was in the past tense. And we also have a negative form, wasn't and weren't, okay? So let's try to look at the West End 50 years ago. West End 50 years ago, okay? So this is West End 50 years ago. How come in this one we use is and not was? Because imagine you're talking to someone showing you a picture of West End 50 years ago. So when they show you the picture, they will say, oh, this is West End 50 years ago. So is present tense because it's always true, right? This is always West End 50 years ago. So instead of was, we use is. Pay attention. All right? So the first line they use is, there wasn't. Wasn't. So for wasn't, is it only one thing or more than one? Was. Was. Is only one thing or more than one? Was. Right, so only one thing, right? So was only one. And then we have the negative, and apostrophe T, so wasn't. That means something that they didn't have, right? Something that they didn't have in West End 50 years ago. So what did they not have in West End? What did they not have in West End 50 years ago that we had in West End, that we have in West End now? What did we have in West End? What did we have in West End 50 years ago, but now we have? Before we didn't. Look at the photo and compare.
We don't have supermarket.
Right, so they did not have, not no have, they did not have a supermarket. Don't say no have, okay? They did not have a supermarket. So, how do we write that down? First, we say there. But is there? No. So you have to use a negative form. So there wasn't a supermarket, okay? A super market. So West End 50 years ago had no supermarkets, but they had something else. So you can write down, there wasn't a supermarket, comma,
Hospital.
but nope, not hospital. Hospital you can go to buy some food, no, right? So if there's no supermarket, where else will they buy their food? But
Baker.
right, my pen is out of ink, so I'll just use the black one, okay? So, but there what?
Ah.
There are? How many bakers can we find?
Where?
How many bakers can we find? How many bakers? How many butchers? How many greengrocers?
Was.
So was, right? My question was how many? So your answer should be one. So there was. There was a. There was a what?
Baker.
Right, there was a baker's. What else? Where to buy the meat? There was a baker's.
Greengrocer.
Not greengrocers, to buy meat. A butcher's. So a butcher is someone who will cut the meat for you. So a butcher's and a green grocers, where we buy the vegetables, right, and fruit. Okay. So let's continue. What else can we find? What can we find in Weston 50 years ago that maybe we don't have in Weston now? We can only find it 50 years ago, and now we don't have it in Weston. So that means we have to write there was, right? So there was, and then you think if it's a or were. Sorry, there was a, right? So it's only one. There was a. What did they have? What did they have in Weston 50 years ago that we don't have anymore now? Look at the picture. What is that?
Circus.
Circus, right? So there was a circus. There was a circus then, or 50 years ago. You can say there was a circus then, or 50 years ago. And then comma, but there weren't many. What did they not have a lot of back then? What did they not have a lot of back then? Did not have a lot of
Cars.
cars, right? So, but there weren't many cars. Full stop. So you can write down it blank, a quiet town then, exclamation mark. So what should I put here? It blank, a quiet town then. What should I put here? It blank, a quiet town then.
Was,
Was, right? It was a quiet town then. Okay? Alright, so let's analyze this again. Here we have wasn't a supermarket. And then here we have right? So bakers, butchers, and grocers. So we need to use was. Now even if we have 1, 2, 3 places we've mentioned, but all these 3 places have only one. Okay? So a baker was a baker. And then we have there was a circus. So again, a circus. How many circus? Just one. So a circus. We use was. And then lastly we have many cars, even though they weren't, right? Not a lot of cars. Not a lot of cars. We still have the letter S here, right? We're referring to many cars that were not there. So we will need to use weren't, right? There weren't many cars. And then a quiet town. Only one town, right? We're talking about is one town. So we need to use was. It was a quiet town then. Okay? Alright, so I'll give you a minute, okay? Just write down your answers, please. You have a minute to write down your answers. Okay? Alright, so the minute is up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we'll have to go to Oh, we don't have enough time. All right, so we'll go quickly through the tongue twister, okay? So back on your work, your pupils book, page 23, we have tongue twister on the top, right? So we will do part 6 and part 8, okay? We'll go briefly through part 7. We don't need to do all of them, okay? So number 6 is on page 23 is a tongue twister. Let's try to read the tongue twister together, okay? So over here, the tongue twister. So we have two different sounds for the constitutes of the letter S, okay? Letter S on its own is S, right? S. And letter SH as one constitute, okay? One unit, SH, it sounds like sh, sh, okay? So let's try to read the tongue twister together. 1, 2, 3. She was in the shoe shop at 6 o'clock on Saturday. Alright, can we try to say that together very quickly, everyone at home and in the classroom? 1, 2, 3. She was in the shoe shop at 6 o'clock on Saturday. What did I say? I say read with me together, right? Okay, so let's do it again properly, please. 1, 2, 3. She was in the shoe shop at 6 o'clock on Saturday. Okay? So some people might find it hard to say sh, right? So the sh, 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 and s, s. Make sure these are different sounds, okay? Not su sop, okay? It's shoe shop, alright? Alright, so now let's go to part 7, okay? So part 7 we were just going to use again 70 years ago, right? So there was something in Newton 50 or 70 years ago. Again, ago means past, right? Ago means in the past, so we will need to use was. If there wasn't this thing, there is not of this thing 50 years ago, then we will use wasn't, okay? And if it's more than one, and we have it 50 years ago, then we say there were. But if we didn't have them, and not a lot of them, then you say there weren't, okay? In the present tense, we use is a. So there is a, right? So is for singular, a, and then for now. Now if we have more than one, so we will say there are. There are many things now. If we don't have a lot, then we say there aren't many things now. And there isn't something now, if it's only one, okay? Alright, very good. So now let's go to our workbook, okay? Our workbook, please. Springboard number 2, okay? Make sure you have the correct book. Workbook, please. Alright, workbook. So on our workbook, we will have to go to page 5. Okay? Page 5 is just a big blank, okay? Just one big blank, okay? What you can do, so you can help yourself, right? You can maybe take out a piece of paper. You can take out a piece of paper or write down at the back of your book, okay? Take a piece of paper or write down at the back of your book, maybe at the back of your book, and you can draw a mind map, okay? You can draw a mind map. Are you paying attention? I said you can open page 5, right? To take down notes, or you can open your or you can close your book and go to the last page, your blank page, or use a piece of paper. You can use.
Not mine.
Hold on. Or use a piece of paper, right? You can use a piece of paper.
It is mine.
Okay, you can use a piece of paper to write down what I'm writing too, okay? You can use a piece of paper and write down what I'm writing. This is called a mind map, okay? This is called a mind map. You can write down here or at the back, okay? So, the question for workbook page 5 is, right here. The question for page 5 is, write about and describe your best friend. Now, how do we put our ideas in an organized way so we know how to write them down carefully, okay? So, we have lines in page 5, right? We have many lines. So, we need to write about 50 words, right? So we can say one circle is 10 words. And then if we have 5 circles, then it becomes 50 words, right? So let's try with the first one. Pay attention. So you can go to the back page of your book. You can go to the back page of your book, or you can write down on a piece of paper. Okay, so write down in a circle, my best friend. Alright, for number 1, the first circle, you can talk about how your best friend looks like. So for example, maybe I can say my best friend's name is Jim. Okay, for example, you choose your own best friend, right? Who is your best friend? And then you write down their name. My best friend is Jim. And Jim is, you can say Jim is 4 years old maybe, or maybe 8 years old, right? Jim is 8 years old. And then how is Jim tall? Is Jim short? I can say Jim is short, right? Jim is short. Okay? And Jim, what does he like to do? Jim likes to play basketball. Or maybe just this one, okay? Maybe we can just talk about how Jim looks. My best friend is Jim. He's 8 years old and he is short. And then for circle number 2, we have 2 circles, right? Now we have 2 circles. Circle number 2, you can say how you met Jim, okay? I met Jim in school, right? Jim is my classmate, right? Jim is my classmate. And what do you like to do with Jim? Or what do you like to do with Jim? Okay? Are you good friends? Are you not good friends? Do you talk all the time, right? Do you talk all the time? Then we have another circle, right? Circle 4. What do you like to do together? Maybe you say, we like to play basketball. Okay? And do you have fun playing basketball together? Yes or no? So, have fun. You write down yes or no. Sorry, this should be number 3, not 4. Maybe you can have 4 circles, right? As long as it's 50 words and it's okay. And then my best friend, right? My best friend is Jim. He's 8 years old. He is short. We met in school. He is my classmate and we talk all the time. We like to play basketball and we have fun always when we play basketball. Okay? And then you tell me why you like your best friend, okay? Maybe you can say, I like my best friend because we can talk about our favorite things, right? Our favorite things. Right? And then you say if you like your best friend or not. You can say, I like my best friend a lot, right? Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 circles about who? About your best friend, okay? You have 4 circles about your best friend. So you can try to write 4 paragraphs, okay? You can try to write 4 paragraphs. I can start with 1 paragraph with you, okay? We can do 1 paragraph together about the first one, right? So if we write this down, right, we have a mind map already. This is our mind map. A map to help us to write properly, okay? So we have the first paragraph, right? Maybe this is first paragraph. We have second paragraph. Paragraph means a body of words or text, right? So we have 1. We have 1. We have 2. Then we have 3. And then we have 4, the ending, right? So we have 3 here and we have 4 here. Okay? So each paragraph, we'll talk about each picture or each circle, okay? So let's try to do one together. My best friend, right? So the title is My Best Friend. So we have to start the story or what you're going to write with my best friend is, and then what is your best friend's name? You will put here. For example, right? For example, my best friend's name is Jim, in circle number 1, and we're here at paragraph number 1. So my best friend is Jim. Full stop. I already used this one, right? So I put a tick. I already finished using. Then I can say how old he is, right? You can say he or she, depends on if Jim is a boy or a girl, right? Depends if your best friend's a boy or a girl. He is, and then don't write down the number, write down the English word, okay? How do we spell 8? E-I-G-H-T. He is 8 years old. Full stop. Okay? And then you can talk about Jim, right? How does Jim look like? Maybe you can say Jim is short with long hair, right? So you can say Jim is short with long or short hair. Maybe I'll give him short hair, okay? Short hair. Full stop, okay? And then see how many words you've written already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Already 15 words, right? And we only need to write around 50. If you do more than 50, then that's okay, as long as it's not 100 or above, then too much, right? So at least 50, 60 to 70 is okay. All right? So this is the first one, right? And we've already finished all the parts in circle number 1. And this is paragraph 1. All right? So after paragraph 1, right, we need to write paragraph 2. Paragraph 2. And how do we start this one? All right, for example, where did you meet your best friend, right? So you can say I met, or Jim and I become, maybe let's use past tense. Jim was or is, right? Depends if until now, is Jim still in your school? Yes, then you use is. Is Jim no longer in your school? No, he already moved different schools, right? Then you use was. Jim is or was in the same school. Full stop. So if he was in the same school, then he was your classmate, right? But if he is in the same school, then he is your classmate or schoolmate. You can say he was or is my classmate. So your best friend can be your classmate, right? Or your schoolmate. Okay? Full stop. So we've used school already. We met in school. He is or was my classmate. And then what do you do in the classroom all the time? Maybe you can say we talk all the time, right? So let's try to write that down. Jim and I like to talk all the time, right? So already finished. So paragraph 2 is already finished, right? Now we have to move on to paragraph 3 and paragraph 4, which we will write down in the same way, okay? Now again, you can use past tense if something is before but no longer now anymore, right? If is, that means until now, still the same, okay? So go home and please write down about your best friend. Again, you can use the mind map, okay, to help you. You can use the mind map to help you. If you want to put more circles in between, very good. But mind you, the word is at least not less than 50. At least 50 words, okay? This is on page 5 of your workbook, page 5, okay? So again, just to remind you, we can use past or present tense, okay? And where can we find the examples? We can find them in our pupils book, right? Our pupils book has a lot of examples of past and present on page 20 to 23, okay? Let me show you. So give me some, okay? So page 18 to 19, right? We have the was and were on this table over here. Past tense. Then also on 22 and 23, right? We also have a lot of past tense. So you can refer to this pages to help you write down your composition, okay? So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. And remember, please, to do your homework about your best friend, and I will check it with you again in the next class. All right, I hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.